You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Roman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Roman.
Welcome. It's always sunny here at the House of Sunny podcast, mostly because I'm your host, Sunny. As usual, I'm here with sidekick Doug from The Rational Capitalist and Ashley. Hey, Doug. Hey, Ashley.
Hello there.
We're going to cover Tommy Robinson's arrest in England late last week, Rosanne Barr's tweet that was heard round the world, the NFL boycott, and more. But first, I have a joke to tell.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, a woman walked up to a little old man rocking in a chair on his porch. "I couldn't help noticing how happy you look," she said. "What's your secret for a long, happy life?" He said, "I smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I also do heroin every day, 3 joints a week, a case of whiskey a week. I eat junk food, and I never exercise." "That's amazing," said the woman. "How old are you?" 26. Yeah. All right, if you want to call in a joke so we can play it on air, call our number 707-681-5834, and we'll play it because we play everything. Also, you can call in a question. We'll talk about it.
What happened to Southern accent guy, joke teller? He's always got a good joke every week.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where'd you go? Southern guy,
Southern
where are
accent
you?
guy. Yeah, they never leave their name, so we can't really talk about them. But, yeah, call in, leave a joke. You know, I always get people to call in when I remember to go over and say, like the day before, "Hey, call in a joke."
Yeah.
If I do that, I get jokes. If I don't do that, we don't get any jokes. So now, pause this podcast right now and call 707-681-5834 and call in that joke for next week. All right, that should do it.
By the way, I have a question for Ashley. She's a dog expert, right?
Sure.
Well, she has 2.
Actually, she's not, as we've amply demonstrated throughout this program.
She's a dog anti-expert.
Right. She's an anti-dog expert. Well, so we recently got a dog, like a rescue adoption type thing, and this dog loves everyone in the house except me.
He's challenging your alpha status.
Oh, boy.
So he loves the kids, and he plays with them, and he snuggles with them, and they take him out and sleep with them. If I go near this damn thing, he literally attacks me. So he's been getting better. We've been giving him treats and stuff. So I was trying, in the course of me trying to friend this dog, we were told, give him lots of treats, and you be the guy who he starts to regard as like the guy who always gives me treats, and then he'll love you, of course, right? Any dog that you're feeding constantly is going to start to love you. So we got some chicken on Memorial Day, the great old tradition of getting KFC.
Mm-hmm.
And
not just any chicken then.
That's right. This is the original recipe. But you know how? Okay, so this is where I'm getting to my question for Ashley. So, you know how when you eat chicken and then you're down to like the bones and stuff, and there's still some chicken on it,
like gristle.
But you don't want to sit there and like an animal and like get all that, So I was giving the dog some of that, all that little gristly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my thought was, just give this dog the whole damn bird, like the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was warned and told
chicken bones are dangerous for dogs.
Chicken bones are dangerous for dogs.
Yeah.
Like they choke on them. And the first thing I thought of was...
They splinter too. They splinter inside
really
your guts.
Okay, so you guys do agree with this premise. All right, so what occurred to me though is dogs have been around for 25 million years?
Okay, I don't know.
So, well, I think that I'm taking a guess.
How do you know that?
Well, I think humans have been around for like 25 million years. I heard that number.
300,000, right?
Yeah, but some like
I don't think it's
ape-type
25
people or
million.
Whatever. Really long time.
Okay.
Millions of years. Anyways, dogs have been around for a long time. So before humans got into the picture, were dogs like when they would eat flocks of chicken? Were there just like dog carcasses strewn about, like choking dog carcasses strewn about some field as these because these dogs apparently didn't know that they're not supposed to eat chicken bones. Like I think
that's the
that
kind of
dogs-
knowledge that gets passed on from pack to pack, like mom to pack. Don't you think?
So now that the humans have entered the dogs' lives, we've saved them from these chicken bones. But if they were left to their own devices and they were out there just eating birds randomly in the wild, are dogs like and animals choking out there without this human? I just think it's totally ridiculous that we think that dogs can't deal with
Can I make a guess on that? That's funny. Can I make a guess on that, though? Like, I don't know why I'm taking this as a legitimate conversation instead of a joke, but...
No, this is actually a real conversation.
And I also have like a legitimate answer for you too.
Because
Okay,
I want to
actually,
give
let's
the
hear yours
dog-
first.
I want to give the dog the whole bone. I want to watch him eat it.
Doug, your first mistake is that you're giving it chicken rather than cow penises. We've learned that the greatest thing is a cow penis for a
Thing
dog.
from this show.
Yes.
It's that Billy
So
Sticks.
that's your first mistake.
Yes. Give your dog a cow dick.
Fair point. Okay.
My guess is, well, actually, give your guess. Tell me what you were going to say.
So I think it's the process of cooking the bones that make them brittle. So you can give them, I think you could give them a raw chicken carcass and they'd be fine.
You're so smart.
Wow.
That was a smart answer.
That is a very
I
smart
was going to make
answer.
a completely made up guess about
Well,
the
let's hear
evolution.
the made up guess because that's probably could be as accurate.
I think you're probably right, Ashley, but also
So raw bones are fine.
Probably. I don't know for sure, but I think it's the actual cooking because I know you're not supposed to give them cooked beef bones either
So
because they're brittle.
So if lightning struck a tree in the wild,
well, that dog would die.
Cook the chicken.
and a fire started and a bunch of chickens were burned, and then the dogs found them
Okay.
25 million years ago, the dogs would have all choked. Okay.
Yes, some
So-
dogs die sometimes when accidents happen, like
So-
lightning.
Growing up, we had dogs, obviously, and we actually had a dachshund, and my grandparents loved to feed my dog chicken bones. His name was Doc, and one time my mom noticed that something was wrong with him. He wasn't eating, and so like a couple days after my grandparents had been there, my mom like put her fingers in the dog's mouth and pulled out a chicken bone that had broke and got stuck in the back jaw. So please don't feed your dog chicken bones.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
Well,
maybe he was enjoying that.
Yeah, not eating.
He's just the dog is walking around with a fresh, awesome bone in his mouth. Isn't that a dog's dream?
It's funny that it would occur to your mom to shove her hand in this dog's mouth 3 days later looking for a chicken bone.
Yeah.
I got caught up in the fact that the dog's name is Doc. So
Doc
you
the
named your
Dachshund?
dachshund Doc. That's very clever, very creative.
And, Russell is my other dog's name, and his nickname is Russell the Love Muscle.
Yeah. And he's a wiener dog.
And he's a Jack Russell Terrier, I guess.
No,
He's a wiener. He's a wiener.
The dachshund.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm confused. So you named your dachshund Doc, and you named...
She has a current dachshund.
You have
and
a
then
dog
she
named
had
Russell.
a dachshund growing up. So she's saying this is two different wiener dogs.
I know, but all right.
So can I give you guys my guess? My guess is that dogs did not eat birds. That wouldn't have been a main source of food. You don't see wolf packs chasing down turkeys. You see them chasing down deer.
Yeah, but deer have bones.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I
feel
don't
like
think they're larger. I don't think they're as brittle as chicken bones, and I think that's true. I don't think they can get lodged and swallowed as easily because they're...
Wait a second. You don't think that dogs would eat birds in the wild? I mean, are you
I don't
kidding?
think it was a main food source. Yeah, I think that's probably more. It was more of a cat food source than a dog food source.
So if this was Hollywood Squares right now, I would be telling Sonny, no, I do not believe that. I believe Ashley.
Yeah, it's kind of a Hollywood Squares question. We obviously, none of us are experts. We don't know.
I mean, there's people that train their dogs to hunt for like pheasant and stuff like that.
But they don't eat them. They go retrieve them.
Well, they train them to have soft mouths so they don't destroy them. But still, I feel like they could. I don't know. My dog's caught a squirrel.
All right. Well, it's more important for me to stop this dog from attacking me.
I told Doug. He told me about this the other day on the phone. I told Doug, get rid of the dog. Any dog that's growling or barking or like making you afraid, I would get rid of it if it was mine.
Well, what's funny to me is that we're concerned the dog's going to choke on a chicken bone, but the thing is like eating me. It's like trying to kill me.
Yes, right. Good luck with that.
So we've got to. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Our first topic of today is Tommy Robinson, and I'm just going to give a little background. So Tommy Robinson is an English bloke who was arrested, I think it was Thursday, for disturbing the peace. And what he was doing was live streaming near the courthouse at the very end of the Rotterdam trial. So this requires so much background, but if anyone's been following anything going on in England related to Muslim immigration or just, I mean, this was pretty big headline news. There have been these mostly Pakistani Muslim sex gangs that recruit very young white British girls. They give them drugs. You know, they're always the troubled girl. They're 12 years old. They give them drugs. They give them money to basically have sex with older Muslim men. And the cops this has been going on for 3 decades. And it was discovered that the police, and by the way, this was happening in multiple towns, not just one, and not the same gang, but every town seems to have its own sex, trafficking gang. And they all seem to be from Pakistan, these Pakistani immigrants. And so a lot of these, I think there's been 3 or 4 now where the convictions have actually come in and these guys have been convicted of this crime. And Rotterdam was a really big one. And in each case, it was discovered that the cops didn't go after the criminals. They knew this was happening. And they were hiding it, and they were not pursuing these, really rapists, because we're talking about underage girls, really young girls. And didn't pursue this because they didn't want to be presumed racist. So it's similar to what we've seen here with the San Bernardino shooters when their neighbor saw something suspicious and didn't call it in because she didn't want to come across as racist. So you have this uber protected class, which is now Muslims. And in England, it's much, much worse. They have a much bigger percentage of Muslims and, they're just, I guess they're more PC and they don't have a Bill of Rights like we have. So people can't just speak out when they want to. The government has a lot of power and a lot of authority. And so Tommy Robinson has been a major, major outspoken critic of this and other things going on in the communities where Muslims have settled. And mostly because he grew up in a town that when I just watched a video or whatever, when he was young, there was 1 mosque in town. Now there's 30. It's something like some huge percentage of the population of the town that he grew up in has become Muslim. And it's become very dangerous there and very segregated. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But anyway, he's been very outspoken and he's been arrested before for talking about this trial. And so it was the last day of the trial. And he knew he was trying to abide by the law. He didn't want to get arrested. He was live streaming. He was asking the police that were there, is what I'm doing okay? I don't want to do anything illegal. Is it okay if I stand here? Is it, And then the only things it turns out the court has recently clarified that they didn't like it that he read out the names of the perpetrators that were on trial. Except that it was all public knowledge, and in fact, you could go to the actual court website and see the names and a description of the plaintiffs, or defendants. So it's just a trumped up excuse really to arrest him. And if you go watch, I'm going to recommend, you can watch a lot of stuff by him. Just Google him and go. A lot of people are saying he's super right wing, he's a Nazi or whatever. But you just need to go and watch a couple of things and you will realize that he's really not. It's just an excuse to dismiss him and to discredit him. But if you go and watch the video interview of Brittney Pettingbone, who's an American new media journalist, does an interview of him just a couple of months ago, where he gets into how the state has been harassing him and persecuting him since he started speaking out about this stuff. And he goes into the whole history of that, and you just cannot believe it. And I'm watching this thinking, I'm so grateful I'm an American. And here, our justice system can definitely be abused, but whoa, he's been through hell with the police.
I want to add a little bit of legal context, because I know there's going to be some pushback from this angle, and I've already heard it online. Britain has laws called, they're more expansive laws in terms of restricting people from publicizing information about court cases. And now this is how they, again, I'm not an expert, but this is just from my basic reading on this trial. They have a history of having these very expansive regulations with the idea that they don't want to prejudice a potential jury pool. So English law has always had this rule in place where the courts can regulate or restrict reporting in and around, or even press from reporting on certain trials, under this sort of idea that, well, if potential jurors read this stuff, they're going to be prejudiced in some way, and it's going to cause a mistrial, and it's going to jeopardize the conviction, and so on and so forth. And then, I want to speak to that in a second, but this guy, Tommy, was outside, and supposedly he was live streaming, and he had been warned. He had done something similar to this in the last 18 months and was warned, and so he was held in contempt of court as a result of his live streaming, and sentenced to 13 months in prison secretly, as the judge passed a gag order on the press. So not only was he secretly convicted, but the judge then, on top of it, put a gag order on the local press, which has since been overturned. A local paper challenged that in court and got it overturned, but they weren't even able to report that he had been arrested and that he had been imprisoned, which is really frightening. So I just wanted to point out those two things, and I wanted to mention in regard to those things, even if you accept that context, that, okay, Britain has different laws regarding this. First of all, the law is stupid. It's totally different, obviously, in the United States. In the United States, juries are told and given instructions to, only consider evidence that's in the case. So how in the world can you have a free country when a judge can stop the press from reporting on a trial? That seems completely draconian to me. And I know there's a lot of people that oppose and are very hostile to these laws and are trying to get them changed. And there's been a lot of study and discussion of that. But secondly, this guy, for live streaming, Sonny, this is to your point, 13 months in prison for live streaming on Facebook. Even if this guy, under the context of this law, had been told, hey, you can't do this, they could have shooed him away. They could have pushed him down the street. They could have given him a night in jail.
The worst thing is that that's exactly what they do to Muslims, or they don't even do that. One of Tommy Robinson's stories of kind of what got him going was there was a parade through Luton, which is his town, which was a parade for returning homecoming soldiers from Afghanistan. and a bunch of Muslims showed up and were spitting in their faces and spitting in the faces of their mothers, you know.
Wow.
And no one did anything about it. But if if he were to do anything like that at a Muslim parade or protest, he would immediately be arrested.
Right.
So it's part of it is that the law is not being applied fairly and equally. It is actually protecting this immigrant class, this Muslim immigrant class of people. And I think that's pretty outrageous. And it's also one of the reasons why, how you end up getting Sharia, or, you know, if these immigrants came in and they had to be subject to our culture and our laws and everything, and I'm not talking ours, but Britain, but it's the same here. We just don't have as much of that immigration as they have in Europe. But it seems to me that in France and in England and in these in countries in Europe, that these immigrants come in and then they're given all this special treatment. They're given extra money. They're given, I mean, look at Minneapolis. The Somalis came in there. There's this mass immigration. Well, it's been discovered that they've been sucking money out of this child care fund where they get $300 per child per week. And there's been this massive fraud uncovered. And
so rather than force them to assimilate.
Well, hang on, let me finish my story. So this massive fraud was supposedly discovered because this whistleblower came out and said this money's actually going to Somalia, and going into the hands of terrorists. And we're talking $100 million a year going to terrorism in Somalia. And that a whistleblower came out and said that he knew that that's what was happening and nothing was being done about it. So our authorities in Minnesota don't want to do anything about what's happening in the Muslim community, the Somali Muslim community, and the fraud and the tribalism and everything else. They don't want to do anything. But if that was discovered, I don't even think that would happen in a white community, because you'd have to have collusion at a level. They're all doing it. And it's a special fund for them, for immigrants, for refugees. So they're getting extra money. They're getting special treatment. They've protested that the food shelf doesn't have halal food. And instead of being told to go F off, it's like, everybody tries to rush around to accommodate them.
Right.
And if instead they were just told, look, you want to be here, you're going to have to eat the food. You want free food, this is what's available. You want halal food, go buy it.
Beggars can't be choosers.
So, but no, we have to be so good and compassionate and worry about, it's like, it's sick. And it's that kind of appeasement. It's not applying the law fairly. It's not protecting the white people in Luton, but instead only protecting the Muslim Pakistanis. Same with Rotterdam and these sex gangs and stuff. It's this disparity that is actually, I think, the biggest problem. Because if English law were applied, you wouldn't even have a Tommy Robinson. You wouldn't have him rising up in this place where no one will protect them, his family, his friends, the people he grew up with. And we're talking about black people. He grew up in a very, very integrated, low-class, working-class neighborhood. And so we're talking about all races. This is not a racial issue. It's an ideology issue, and the British law is not being applied fairly, and it's being applied against him. And if you go watch this Pettingbone interview, you will see how much the law has been applied against him, and they're using it to persecute him and harass him, much in the way that the FBI is doing to Trump. But
these
it
double
can't happen here.
The double standards under this, these premises of multiculturalism are incenting, these people not to assimilate, and in fact emboldening them in not assimilating, and even asserting their desire to implement Sharia law and to, not assimilate or not to adopt our culture, our Western norms of law and individual rights. And so all you're doing, like you said, is emboldening this sort of hostility, and then people like, Tommy Robinson, who speak out, are regarded as Nazi right-wing buffoons,
right?
And just cast out, dismissed, persecuted, and treated with total contempt.
I
and now
think
he's been thrown in prison, and I think it's really starting to hit a boiling point.
the Nazi slur thrown at him, I think, is racist because he actually fits the stereotype. And that's why people call him that stuff. He's uneducated. His haircut is a little, it's kind of that shaved, kind of half military like hair. He's tough. He can fight. He's standing up for himself and his family and his neighborhood.
Right. So he's being stereotyped as this sort of like hooligan.
Yeah, and
rather than someone who's concerned about what's happening in his country.
He admits that, growing up in that neighborhood, he did some stupid things like getting into brawls at a football game and some other stuff.
Well, it's all irrelevant, to his point.
Well, I think people try. It's relevant. People attack his character, so I want to say that he admits to this stuff, and for people who haven't grown up in a tough neighborhood, just shut up. You can't criticize a white kid growing up in a tough neighborhood who gets in a few brawls.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, that's just part of life. And if you don't do it, you're going to get killed. I mean, you literally, you have to be tough. And also it's the culture around you. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have legitimate things to say about what's happening to his neighborhood and country, and the cultural changes. And it's not just, it's a different culture. Isn't it great? We're talking violence. We're talking Sharia law. He said that billboards in the town, there are no billboards or signs with women who are wearing anything that shows skin. Because, so it's really changed everything. And he doesn't say all Muslims. He says it's this violent minority that rule the whole thing.
Right. And, this is part of what we've seen here, where you've got, this elitist kind of take on people in middle America, or in this case, in a lower class part of England, looking down their nose at these, hooligan flyover state rubes, right? That are so, it's the same exact thing.
They must be Nazis.
Yeah, they're
white. They're uneducated or not as educated. So
yeah, how dare they?
They're dismissed.
We're on this higher plane, and meanwhile, these people these elitists, go back, drive their limo back to their gated community somewhere, and leave the rest of the world to deal with the problems that they create through trying to throw together completely disparate cultures and people who don't have respect for the communities they're entering in terms of respecting the laws and the standards and the norms of the people that live there.
And the British government, rather than really address that and face that, okay, we let in this immigration from Pakistan, and one of the side effects, the really horrifying side effects, has been that they've brought some of this sex trafficking culture with them. And if they don't look at it and face it, it's just going to keep happening.
So what's their take that this is just, pedophile grooming gangs are just part of Pakistani culture. I guess we've got to accept it.
No, they won't discuss it or talk about it. Or if you even say that is considered racist or anti-Muslim or something. You're not allowed to notice that pattern. Tommy Robinson notices that pattern and says something about it. And the government, instead of addressing the crime and the criminals, is just going after Tommy. Because if we just don't talk about it, then they can just pretend like it's not really happening.
Well, it was like that law, remember, in wherever was it Dade County, around the school shooting down there, where the leftists that were in charge of the local government decided that they just wouldn't prosecute people so that crime would go down for minorities. Right. Remember that?
Right.
That's their solution. Don't talk about it. Don't arrest criminals.
And
just...
And that means there's less crime. That is such a fucking weird attitude. And like you just mentioned, I mean, it's around the world. We're getting it here. If we just pretend like the crime isn't happening. I mean, it's kind of the thing about we aren't allowed, no one's allowed to mention that black people commit more crimes. And that's why
Can't even say it.
higher
That's a
percentage of them
statistic.
are arrested. I mean, that's just a freaking fact. And you can't say it, you can't talk about it, you can't discuss it. I'm telling you, if I were black, I would want that discussed because I would want to help my community. What the hell's going on? How can we improve the black communities so that kids aren't destined for jail and crime and, but no, you can't talk about that because that's racist. And kind of Tommy's dealing with the same thing. So he's been arrested. They were so swift in sending him to prison and invoking this suspended sentence that he had for a previous breaching the peace infraction that was very similar to what they've charged him with. And it was around the same trial, I believe. And they sent him to prison. And they have sent him to prison before on trumped up charges and put him, rather than put him in like a white collar, like I think he pled guilty to some sort of mortgage fraud. And you really should go hear his account of it because it was a setup, and he took the plea so that they wouldn't charge his wife because he didn't want his wife having to show her face in public because he's been successful in keeping her face out of the public eye for her safety this whole time that he's been an activist. So the government held that over his head and made him take this sentence for mortgage fraud. So he has that conviction, or that guilty plea. And normally you'd get sent to like a white collar criminal prison, but they sent him to a maximum security prison, and they were putting him in the population with terrorists.
Well, he's a violent Facebook live streamer.
Yeah,
so
and
he needs to be with gang members and other murderers.
One thing I've learned researching this whole story, and I didn't know this, but it's kind of interesting, and it's also sort of a canary in the coal mine for us. And people are saying that. People are saying it's happening here too. The prisons in England are basically run by Muslim gangs. And that isn't a conspiracy theory. And to really find out about that, you should go watch, and I'll put these in the notes, the Sargon of Akkad video that just came out. He couldn't talk about the Tommy Robinson case because of the gag order. And he said, and so he said he felt like he felt he had to do something. So instead, he decided to report on the state of the prison system in England. And he has all of these facts that he shows to explain, what's going on in the prisons. These are all documented and convicted, people who've been convicted of things. This is real. This is not made up. These aren't anecdotes any longer. And so him being sent to prison is basically a death sentence for Tommy Robinson. So unless he's in solitary confinement, he'll die. And that's one of the concerns with him going to prison. And people think that the government is trying to kill him, to get rid of him. So that sounds crazy. But again, if you hear his report, it does sound like, he got a call from from the spy group in London too. They tried to recruit him to become a spy on the right.
Wow. And
he refused, and then sometime later, the cops showed up his door or something and that's when they were going after him for the mortgage stuff. And then they called and said, looks like you're in a spot of trouble. Maybe you should, if you sign up for us, we can fix that. So they're basically blackmailing him, and he refused, and now he's got trouble. So I feel like I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but all you have to do is look into this a little bit, and this shit is true, I'm telling you. So go look at that. And then we have other very high-profile things that have happened. You can see that England does not give a shit about free speech. That Count Dankula guy who trained his... Here, we should ask him what to do about your dog. He trained his pug to do a Nazi salute. You know about that guy?
No, what?
This guy in England, he trained his girlfriend's pug, not really, but kind of did, to respond to Heil, where the dog would put his hand up like for shake.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to train a dog to shake. But instead of shake being the command, he made the command Heil. So it looks like the dog, or Heil Hitler or something. So it looks like the dog is saluting.
Okay.
And he had a bunch of things like that. And he filmed a video and edited it. And it's really, whatever. Is it in poor taste? I don't know. It's a prank. And it's a joke. And he ended up being arrested and convicted of,
Wow. Of dog teaching bad.
obscene speech or something like that. So
Nazi dog teaching. Great.
So that just
this
happened.
Is what they're worried about. Meanwhile, they're pedophile like grooming
Yeah.
gangs roaming the city, but they got their man,
Right.
the dog,
Yeah, a guy
the
making a
highly
joke.
styled dog.
I mean,
It's
so
off-
obviously a
It's
joke.
off the streets.
Yeah. And that was a big deal because people are just like, this is humor. And anyway, and I'm thinking you can't. So if it's not a joke, he's not allowed to do it. He's not allowed to say it. But
I think what people on the right have to realize is this is how a society slips into authoritarianism and dictatorship. The government's not going to come out tomorrow and say, "Okay, everybody, we've taken over. Coup d'état. We're in charge now. Everyone, go to your cage."
that
This is
seems
not
to
going
be
to happen like
everybody's
that.
idea that like, well, you read any novels or watch any TV shows, it happens suddenly.
Right.
Never happens
right.
that way.
And it happens gradually, and these are the kind of ripening events
Yeah.
where people are ripened by these types of ideas and these kinds of ideologies where people are self-censoring. They're afraid to speak out, they're afraid to talk, they're afraid to make jokes, they're afraid to post things that are controversial.
And that
because
is
they're-
happening here. I mean, the government's not doing it, but definitely socially we're doing it. And we'll get into Roseanne's tweet next. We can discuss whether or not that's an example of this. But additionally, I wanted to say Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, people who are kind of anti-Islam activists, have been denied entry to the UK. Lauren Southern, Brittney Pettingbone, Martin Sellner, who Martin is an activist, but Brittney and Lauren are both journalists. They were both detained at the border. Lauren was detained under terrorist laws or something like that.
It's crazy.
And she's a Canadian. Brittney's an American. Martin's a German. Martin was going there to be in a protest. Brittney was going there to interview Tommy Robinson. I don't know why Lauren was there. Anyway, this is what England is doing. So England is keeping out anybody who will speak out against Islam, and they're doing it with whatever laws they can. Meanwhile, they're not they're prosecuting these rape gangs now, but how many haven't they prosecuted? They're only prosecuting the ones they couldn't hush up. And it does seem like they just want to avoid the subject altogether as much as possible.
Right.
So they arrested and convicted and sent to prison those two guys, the man and woman who started the Britain First group, which
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I think that is far right. I think they may be racist. I don't know about them. It sounds like they were being pretty harassing, but here
I
you would
recall
get
this vaguely, and I don't think they were. I think they were just speaking out.
they were handing out leaflets. That's one thing I know. Somebody said something about banging on a window. But okay, for that
Leaflets? Did you say leaflets?
Yes, dangerous. For that here, that'd be like a misdemeanor, And they were sent away for, I don't know, I think he got a 36-week sentence or something. I mean, sent to freaking prison for that. And the judge said in that case, I wrote it down here, that their names were Golding and Franson, and that their words and actions demonstrated hostility towards Muslims and the Muslim faith. So?
Oh my God.
Right? I mean,
so, and this is the thing though, this is really what the left wants here. I mean, they're all in favor of this kind of thing. The only thing that's protecting us from it is the First Amendment.
That's right.
And the composition
And
of
the
our current
Second.
Supreme Court.
And the Second Amendment.
And the Second, that's right. But I'm just saying that the big picture takeaway is that, don't
let it go.
don't think just because there's some legal pretext here for this kind of thing that there's not a larger cultural movement and a culture of hostility towards freedom of speech that's manifesting in the persecution of people like Tommy Robinson and the kind of violence we've seen against conservative speakers on college campuses and the kind of speech code and the hostile climate on
Well,
college campuses all the United States.
Again, it's the same thing. They're pandering and appeasing the attackers. When Antifa attacks, people say, "Oh, well, you're a Nazi, so you riled them up." Or on a campus, the people on the left are allowed to terrorize. The people on the right could never do that. I mean, it's a double standard in applying discipline and law, and I think it's going that way in this country. Antifa is not held to our laws. When are they ever arrested and charged with crimes when they pull somebody over the head? I mean, it happens once in a while when it's too public to ignore.
Right. Well, there's not a principle. I mean, even on civil libertarians of old are not standing up for free speech and principle.
Yeah.
And that's the frightening thing. And, you're seeing it manifest in corporate policies.
But
and
what
elsewhere.
you mean by that is they're not standing up for it when it's the leftists shutting down the right. But, they'll be right there if the right does it to the left. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be. I'm just saying we are now facing that same situation here where rule of law is being applied differently.
Yeah, and we have to realize that the left isn't really for free speech. They were for free speech when they were in the minority, and they were the ones who wanted a platform for their ideas to be heard and promulgated.
They're openly against hate speech now. They're openly against what they call hate speech, and
what's the first thing socialists do when they get in power is they take control of the media, they shut down rival newspapers, they start persecuting dissenters. They're not for free
intellectuals,
speech.
Which they've already done here. They won't even have anyone to purge. They're already purged.
Right. They've purged any dissent out of the university system. I mean, anyone that stands against it now is in hiding, if they're even there. So, I mean, the first steps towards this kind of system have been taken. It's just a question of how does it get implemented? And there are going to be cases, and they use cases that are gray areas, like, the hate speech laws. Well, that sounds nice to most people. Well, you committed a crime and you were hateful while you committed the crime. So they start kind of mixing and conflating concepts that are easy for people to be taken in by. And suddenly we have hate speech codes of some kind.
Right.
And then where do you draw the line on that? So it's going to happen piecemeal. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think anytime we see stuff like this, you've got to push back against it. And keep in mind the larger context, not just
it's
the concrete.
It's true. I mean, David Hogg conducted a little protest at Publix where all these people laid down on the floor, and Publix came out and said, "Okay, we're canceling all of our political donations," which unfortunately they kind of have to do. They have to become apolitical, or they're going to lose half their customer base. But for sure, they should have called the cops and arrested every single person there.
Right.
But would the cops even arrest every single person there lying down on the floor in Publix? I don't think they would.
No, because they don't want to escalate it. So they just say, well, let them go, and then they'll finally leave.
Turn the water cannons on them, right? So it's like we're not being hard enough on people who break the law,
Well, and also I think we can't conflate the moral and the legal. Sometimes people have a right to do something, like, for example, in the case, and we talked about this a long time, several weeks ago, but, the Googles and Facebooks of the world, they might have a right at some technical level to, shut people down or demonetize people or fire their employers or whatever. That doesn't mean what they're doing is right or moral or that we should stand by and take it just because they have a right to do it. I mean, I don't care if they have a right to do it. If they're wrong, then they need to be called out. And the left is evil, and they're trying to overthrow they're trying to overthrow our Constitution and usurp individual rights. So, if you care about that, which you should.
The Tommy Robinsons of the world are not the enemy. And I just want to make that clear. Can't even believe I have to make that clear. But I think he's been smeared enough that I think you do have to make that point. Even if he were sort of Nazi-ish, I don't even think he would be the enemy then. He's just
No, because that's the point. Is you got to look at the big picture here. It doesn't matter if he was a brawler or if he did this or he did that or whatever. This guy is standing there trying to draw attention to
real problems.
Real problems that are going on, and he's trying to express himself freely, and he's being persecuted by the state.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the story here, period.
Yeah. So I think he's a very moral person. I think he's a hero. I think he's incredibly courageous. And I really hope he survives this, and I hope he gets out. There's a big Free Tommy movement going on, and I did sign the petition. I encourage everybody else to do that over at change.org. I don't know what else to do over here. I mean, the only thing we can do over here is just not let it happen here and start recognizing how it is happening here a little bit and really be united in pushing back against it and in supporting people like Tommy Robinson, at least spiritually. And on that note, let's talk about Rosanne Barr, because that's kind of a different case, but it's interesting because it has parallels, don't you think?
Yeah, I do.
So Tuesday morning, Rosanne Barr tweeted, Valerie Jarrett is like, what if the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby? So it was a slam against Valerie Jarrett. And people are going, oh no, Roseanne called a black woman a monkey. And within 4 hours, ABC canceled the show Roseanne. So that's how quick it was. So she tweeted. 4 hours later, her show is canceled. Everybody's fired. She has apologized profusely for it. She said she was on Ambien, but she said she didn't know that Valerie Jarrett was black, which nobody fucking knew Valerie Jarrett was black until yesterday.
No, I thought she was Middle Eastern.
I thought she was Persian.
I didn't know she was black.
I didn't, Arab, whatever. I didn't even. Are those the same? Is Arab and Persian the same? I don't even know.
No, they're not.
I am not racist. That's why I don't know things like that. You know?
No, she's Iranian.
Rachel Dolezal looks more black than Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
You know.
And Valerie Jarrett does look like she was from the Planet of the Apes. If you look at her face.
She has that, protruding mouth.
She has that face.
She has that protruding mouth that's a little monkeyish.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I just wanted to say, the monkey slur is not owned by black people. We called the Japs monkeys in World War II. Just Google that. Google Jap monkey image World War II, and you will get posters. So it's just a slur. It's a general slur. The left have
been calling Trump an orangutan for being orange.
Right. They've been calling him a monkey for 2 years. So get over yourselves. It's not a big deal. Roseanne is a comedian. I don't know if you can call that a joke. It's kind of a joke. I don't know what she's been tweeting before that, after that. Rosanne Barr is so weird. She ran on the socialist ticket for president. It was sort of a joke candidacy, but she's a socialist. And then she's a Trump fan, I guess. It's all very confusing. I don't even know where she is really politically. But I've never watched her show. I don't particularly like her style of humor. I think she can be funny, though. I've seen her do stand-up that I've laughed at. It's really funny. But her shtick is always pretty low class, kind of outrageous. She insults people. I mean, get over yourselves. It's I just don't understand why it's such big news.
Well, my take on it was she does owe an apology, but she owes an apology to the Planet of the Apes. Because Valerie Jarrett is evil. She's from a family of communist sympathizers, and this is well known, and there's articles and FBI files that followed and that were released that revealed the extent to her family's sympathies with communist agitators. She's an Iranian-born, I think she's a Muslim sympathizer. She has connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. So what Roseanne said was actually right. The Planet of the Apes thing might be distasteful, but I don't really think it was distasteful at all. I think it was actually funny because I've thought to myself that she does look like she's from the Planet of the Apes. Her face looks like that. So it's probably bad taste.
Her hair looks a little wiggish. So it looks like something out of I would say out of the first movie. The old Charlton Heston movie instead of the current movies, because she looks a little overly, her eyebrows are fake, her hair seems kind of weird, and
actually, I think she was complimenting her in a way, because the Planet of the Apes, if you follow the movies, the apes have completely taken over the planet. They're a society of intellectuals and scientists. They're brilliant.
I think that's a stretch.
And the humans had become complacent, and the apes completely dominated and just destroyed them.
That's going to happen to us.
What I'm saying is, I don't think it was a racial slur. I think it was.
I don't think it was either, but
But the fact is that Valerie Jarrett is far more evil. The big picture point is that Valerie Jarrett was the shadow president. She was Obama's right-hand woman, who in many ways ran the Obama presidency behind the scenes, and she was behind the Iranian deal, where they sent $2 billion in pallets of cash to the Iranians.
She was involved in the Libya fiasco. I mean,
she was involved in Fast and Furious and covering that up, the gun running scandal. She's a bad person.
She's a very bad person.
Communist sympathizer.
Yep. So I don't have any sympathy for her. I don't think it was a racial joke. I just wish that we didn't live in this world where Twitter makes the news every day. Like, somebody tweeted something and that's freaking news. Like, who gives a shit?
Right. Someone said something.
It's so off the cuff over there. I don't care. I hope Twitter goes away. I really do. I don't ever go to Twitter. I have a Twitter. I find the whole place just, so what? It's so, I don't know.
I think there's just these virtue signal warriors out there that, God forbid, someone makes a tasteless joke or someone says something controversial, and then we all harangue, and burn the witch because the witch spoke out. I mean, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not just the vehicle of Twitter. Well, that certainly exacerbates this whole trend when something like this happens. But it's more the culture has just become so awful and so oppressive. Even on the other side, I think we've talked about some of these left-wing people, doing some outrageous and controversial things, and said, you know what? There are comedians. These people walk the line. They make jokes to be controversial. That's what they do.
Right.
And it's a free country. So just shut the F up.
Yeah, right. That's how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not really defending her so much. I'm not saying, oh, she's great and what she did was moral and she's attacking someone evil and she's a Trump supporter, so she's awesome. I don't have those thoughts at all. I don't follow Roseanne. I don't really care what she thinks. I think racist jokes can be funny. So, it used to be that we could make racist jokes and laugh at each other's differences, and that helped us come together, actually. And people discount that as a way that people actually unite and merge, is if you can poke fun at your differences with each other. I mean, those jokes, the oldest jokes in the books are a Polak and a Jew and a Irish guy walk into a bar. And it's those are the oldest jokes ever. And today, those are the least welcome jokes. But they would get you to laugh at your differences together, and that helped diffuse any tension. But today, no, not allowed. And I'm not even saying that was a racist joke or that's what Roseanne's doing. She's crude and crass, and people go on Twitter and they're just mean to each other. It happens. Everybody on Twitter is mean to everybody else. So, oh my God, she insulted Valerie Jarrett.
No kidding.
It's faux outrage.
That's a great point. If you look at the vile and the vitriol that's spewed every microsecond on Twitter by 10 billion people at each other, and the kind of outrageous, preposterous, evil claims that people are making, and then it's the Twitterverse that stands in judgment of, Roseanne steps out of line. Come on, man. It's so dumb.
Now, ABC canceled the show. They did it really fast. I think they were looking for an excuse. I mean, after the Trump support came out, that was a pretty big scandal. And I don't think ABC wants to support a Trump supporter. So I think that was going to happen as soon as Rosanne Barr stepped over the line doing anything. I think she was a target. And, she's a loose cannon. I think you have to be careful doing business with loose cannons.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's what should have happened and what was going to happen, because you've got sort of a boorish person like Roseanne, whose show is being run by the Disney company, which owns
right.
ABC. I mean, that was headed for disaster.
Yeah.
So she probably should find an outlet for her brand of humor
Yeah.
that's,
It's the
more
wrong
acceptable.
place.
It's the wrong place for that. It was
Yeah.
sort of like that 90s comedy that we talked about, Sonny, with like Colbert and Louis C.K. and stuff. The Dana
Yeah.
Carvey show.
The Dana
that,
Carvey
that
show,
lasted
yeah.
like 3 weeks or something
Right.
before. It was like right before some stupid family
Yeah.
ABC show. And
Right
they were
after
doing...
Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is Dana Carvey had this show right after, he's peaking. His fame was peaking, and he's so talented. And he pulls together this team that includes a young Louis C.K., a young Colbert, a young Steve Carell. He has all this incredible talent, and the show flops because it was too edgy, I'd say.
That's an understatement.
So people were watching Seventh Heaven with their kids, and his show comes on, and the very first bit is Bill Clinton with 8 teats, like dog teats, feeding 8 babies out of teats, and there's actual milk pouring out of these nipples. I mean, it's actually kind of gross and weird.
Yeah.
And that was the first sketch, and apparently they could not recover after that. They couldn't
Didn't
recover.
fly. What was that sketch? What was it Grandma Clown?
Oh,
yeah. Do you remember that?
Gosh.
The really awful, like, okay, I won't get into it.
We'll talk about it another time, because I can't remember that either.
It's
We're
funny.
almost out of time, but I don't know what kind of parallels I wanted to draw between Tommy Robinson and Roseanne Barr, except, again, it's like, okay, she's offensive, big deal. I just, whatever.
I'll tell you what I think about it, which is that, of course, ABC has every right to fire her. It's a private company. She has a contract. They have an audience. No one would dispute their legal right to do that. Unlike this case with Tommy Robinson, where you have the state. This is not a private contract. This is the state basically persecuting this guy and using the law to do it. So ABC certainly had a right. There's more just a question of, what was the moral thing to do under the circumstances. And my take is that, given the climate, of course, ABC was going to do that. But what concerns me is that the fact that we have this kind of climate.
Yes, I don't like the climate. The climate
where comedians can't be controversial without getting canned immediately.
That's exactly it. This, to me, is what we were talking about, which is the precursor of state censorship. And that seems paranoid, but, when you have this Roseanne Barr thing, you have the publics can't give to politicians, even though they give to Democrats and Republicans and the NRA. It's like they give pretty equally, turns out. Well, they're not allowed to do that because some of that money went to some politician who supported the NRA, and David Hogg didn't like it.
Okay.
And so there's just this cultural freezing of free speech. And we're not respecting that people can disagree with us, and we don't have to shut their businesses down. Like the whole gay cake thing. You know,
that's a good point.
People can have different viewpoints, and you don't have to ruin their lives.
Well, that's a really good point, which is that it's sort of the criminalization almost of political differences, where if you disagree with me, it's not that we just disagree. It's that you are evil for disagreeing, and I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to destroy you.
You deserve to be ruined and destroyed. And I don't know how that. And then if we bring in like the NFL boycott, meanwhile the NFL has been losing viewership because of the anthem protests. So they can actually point to real harm being done to them by this employee in this stupid protest that I don't agree with. And I also don't think that was, Roseanne is being hurt for something she did outside of work. Colin Kaepernick wants to be able to do whatever he wants at work.
Right.
And he wore socks that said cops are pigs or something. I mean, he's not exactly like not being nasty and insulting.
Well, no, and it's an entertainment business that relies on fans voluntarily buying tickets and loving and idolizing their players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's obviously a threat to their business model.
I don't think that applies, and they've been putting up with it for quite a while. I think they were hoping it would blow over. It wasn't like ABC, where 4 hours later they're canceling the show, this knee-jerk SJW bullshit. And now that the NFL has come out and said, look, you can avoid the anthem in the locker room. We're not going to make you be patriotic. But if you come out, this is a show, and we're going to stand for the anthem. And that apparently now has caused a backlash boycott. So they're going to get boycotted now by the left, which I think, okay, good luck. I think most of the football fans are actually on the right.
All those Berkeley football fans.
Yeah, right.
We're going to lose that whole demographic.
Bummer. So I don't think NFL cares too much, but I think that's different. And anyway, maybe you can tell me in the comments why you think it isn't different, or tell us what you think about this whole subject. And do you think we're putting out a double standard of our own here? I don't think we are, but we'll see what you think. And I think that's it for our show. We've hit an hour here. So if you enjoy the show, consider joining our Patreon. We are completely fan-funded, so we need you to keep doing this. You can get mugs, t-shirts, access to a secret Facebook group, and more. Go to patreon.com/House of Sunny to join up. And we'll talk to you next week, folks.
Thanks for listening to the House of Sunny podcast. Go check out Sunny on YouTube at her channel, House of Sunny. Everything Sunny does is fan-funded, and because she's likely to get kicked off and demonetized on every platform at some point, please support her over at patreon.com/House of Sunny. Become one of Sunny's elite squad and have access to behind-the-scenes footage, t-shirts, special events, and more.